Let's just jump straight into it because we've got half an hour. There's several hundred of you, and there's already a lot of questions in the chat. Let's see. Let's start with, okay, a good, easy. Barry Price says, how did you feel as you were attacked by these people? I didn't feel great, Barry. I'll be honest with you. It's not easy to put a brown Muslim immigrant into a room full of white supremacists and then expect to, have to deal with that stuff. Look, I love to argue and debate. Those of you who know me know I love to argue, debate. I literally wrote a book on it. It's one of the reasons I agreed to do this. It's like, oh, me versus 20. I like those odds. But I didn't expect this much open abuse, racist abuse to my face. Like, this is the America we live in now. One of the useful things that comes out of this debate is you can see for yourself what is out there now. We're not making this stuff up. This is the America we live in now. In Trump's America, people are emboldened to say stuff they would never dare say in public 5 or 10 years ago, certainly not 15 or 20 years ago. People saying things to my face. Yeah, Barry, it wasn't great. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I don't think we should. I always say this, like Muslims, brown people, immigrants, black people. We're not born with thicker skins than everyone else. So, of course, it hurts. Of course, it's upsetting. I don't want people to know that they're getting under my skin. But racist abuse is something we shouldn't normalize or think is okay as part of a debate. So, no, it wasn't great. But, I know how to hit back harder than most people do. So I was able to kind of take some of these people down and turn the tables on them and throw some of it back in their faces. But look, it's not pleasant. Josephine Olsen says, I was so impressed with your quick recall of good arguments. Thank you very much. I'm one of those guys who like crams for exams. So I'm night before. I'm imbibing everything. If you ask me now to say again what I said on when I taped that, I probably couldn't remember, to be honest. This is let's keep going through these. Have we got JH asks, did you fear for your safety being there? A lot of us viewers were nervous seeing the vitriol in some of the participants' eyes. I did, and I took security with me. And unfortunately, the world we live in now is, when we do public events, we have to have security. Unfortunately, journalists now are targeted, judges are targeted, activists are targeted, politicians are targeted, members of Congress are having their security budgets out. We live in America always was a violent country, a heavily armed country. We now live in a country where the president of the United States and some of his media acolytes are inciting violence all the time. So unfortunately, you shouldn't have to fear for your safety in a televised debate in a TV studio. But look, it would be ridiculous not to worry. I mean, did you guys see the second guy? I think his name's Richie. He's been tweeting at me for the past couple of days. Second or third guy in the green t-shirt, appropriate green t-shirt, acting like the Hulk. He was like, I have this thing where if I get mad, I just have to stay calm. That's a weird thing to say. I was sitting there thinking, okay, this is going to be a very interesting 2 hours. Like the second or third guy who's come to sit opposite me has warned me that he's not allowed to lose his temper. Where am I? So yes, it wasn't great. And sadly, we have to kind of take these measures of security. Charlie Henderson asks, I've read Win Every Argument, but generally, how the hell do you keep that many facts, dates, and statistics just at the ready like that? There's no way you could have predicted how unhinged they immediately got, yet it felt as if you had a response for everything. So Charlie, just to expand on what I said, one thing is I'm very good at cramming and prepping last minute. Even when I was a student in school and college, I was the night before guy. I was the guy who would be looking at my notes as I walked into the examination hall just to kind of have the immediate recall. Obviously, I'm older and grayer now. The memory isn't as good as it was, but I do cram a lot of stuff in. That's one thing. Two is I live and breathe this stuff. So, a lot of it was already there because I've debated this stuff for years. And three, response for everything. Unfortunately, for my sins, I spend a lot of time watching what the far right say. I watch Fox. I read right-wing sites. I'm familiar with their arguments. So, Charlie, you may have noticed there were moments where I clocked things very quickly because I know these people. I know where I didn't know those specific people. Jubilee picked those people, not Zeteo, obviously not me. I just turned up as a participant. But I clocked those types of people. So when the Hulk guy was like, well, there's a genocide, I'm like, you're white genocide guy. When the guy with the baseball cap who wanted me out, who pretended he was an economist till I called him out, when he said, well, I'm being replaced. You're a great replacement guy. When our fascist friend was quoting General Franco, I was like, you're a fascist. It's very clear. I mean, the Franco debate goes back to the 1960s. Because I've been following this stuff for a long time, that's why partly I have a response for a lot of this stuff. But I appreciate you reading the book. And as I say in the book, preparation is key. And I did a lot of preparation for the Jubilee debate, even though my opponents did not, clearly. Liking this video? Then don't just watch, hit like, share, and subscribe. And tap the bell so you never miss a video or live show. But if you want early access to exclusive content, then you have to head to Zeteo.com and subscribe now. You'll be supporting fearless, independent journalism. Hasnain Yarkhan says, you've interviewed world leaders and debated policies for years. How did this experience on Surrounded, facing openly fascist individuals, compare in terms of emotional and intellectual challenge? What a great question, Hasnain. Well, first of all, it's very different. Even if they hadn't all been freaks and loons, these are quote unquote ordinary people. Actually, many of them turned out to be kind of online influencers. But it was pitched to me as, ordinary people. These were not politicians. These are not people in power, not the kind of people I interview for a living. So just as a general rule of thumb, you have to adjust your style of debate, right? You're dealing with members of the public, not people in power. So your tone, your style has to be very different. You try not to come across as patronizing, although halfway through the debate, I kind of lost that. There's no way you cannot patronize some of these people who are so dumb in the things they say. You'll remember the woman who came up to me and said that you can't be an American and an immigrant, and then revealed that her parents are Americans who were immigrants. Anyways, so sometimes you do end up being patronizing. But yes, the experience was very different. As Charlie just mentioned, there was a sense of slightly foreboding and insecurity and fear because these people, is one of them a nut job, which you don't feel when you're interviewing politicians? Emotionally, yes, it was a lot more emotional because A, they were very personally abusive, and that's not great. B, I'm thinking all the way through that I have kids. I have friends and family in this country. I live here. I've been here 10 years. I've been an American citizen for 5 years. This is our country. These are the people who are our neighbors, people in our workplaces, people in the grocery store aisle. That's what was so scary and emotionally disturbing about the Surrounded experience. And again, I'm waiting to see those of you who criticize me for doing it. I'm sure some of you wish I hadn't done it. And I'm on the fence myself as to whether it was a good or bad thing to have done. But one reason it was a good thing to have done is it exposed a lot of these people. It wakes people up to, these are some of the people in the United States right now. This is 20, 30, 40% of the public. I don't know what percentage you want to put on it, but it's a very loud, vocal and growing minority. So that emotionally affected me, Hasnain, to think about this. Is when I left there and drove home with my colleague and the security, we talked in the car about, like, what is America effed? Like, what is the future of America if these are some of the young people in there? Let's keep going. Let's have a look and see. Imran Kukdawala says, I sound like your mum, but man, I was worried about you as I listened to those people spewing venom from their mouths. I just want to ask, were you able to sleep that night? Yes, I went out for a great Chinese meal in LA that night. Actually, it was a great Uyghur meal with our friends, the Uyghur Muslims, that evening, and had a good time with friends and family and ate lots of ice cream. So I'm always able to sleep well after ice cream. Let's keep going. Oz Hack says, this was quite the show. Your performance was extraordinary. Thank you, Oz. Has this reached audience who don't usually see you or other liberal media? I don't mean lost because crazy people, but people in the middle who may realize that political insouciance is costly. How do you measure who it has reached, and how do you further that type of reach? Will you see you on a Joe Rogan type platform? So a lot of questions there. Look, it's a good question. One of the reasons I did it, and people have said, why would you do this show? What did you achieve? I don't know what I achieved. That's something that will take time to really work out. But one reason I did it is because I'd watched Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens, all of these right-wing shock jocks do Surrounded. I watched very few progressives have done it. Destiny, if you can call him a progressive, he's certainly not in Gaza, had done it to defend the Democratic Party. Sam Cedar, my good friend from the Majority Report, he did it. And Sam advised me to do it. He said, you should do it. It's a whole new audience. To go back to Oz's question, you do reach people you're not going to reach before. I mean, this is, for those of you, I don't know how many of you on the call are 30, 40, 50. I'm in my 40s. People who are in their teens, they watch Jubilee media. My kid said to me, Jubilee. My niece said to me, Jubilee, you should do it. And I was listening to people saying, oh, wow, this is a really big thing. Since the show came out this week, I've had multiple people tell me, my kids have been watching this. My kids have been asking me, do I know you? It's a huge young audience. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing that young people in America are all watching Jubilee, young people around the world, that's a different debate. But the reality is it has a huge audience. I mean, it's already, as I say, 7 million views, and that's just on YouTube. So for me, I want to go where audiences are at, within reason. But I do want to go where audiences are. I've never been of the journalism school of thought that says, I just want to preach to the converted. I just want my own little small echo chamber. You remember that phrase, if a tree falls in a wood and there's no one around to hear it, does it make a noise? And I always wonder about that phrase. Like, I can do great journalism, great monologues, great interviews, write great articles, but if no one hears or sees or reads them, what impact are you having? I became a journalist to have impact on the world, not to sign up to a purity test, not to feel good about myself, not to get rah, rah, rah from a crowd of like-minded people. And to have impact, you got to go and get big audiences. It's one of the reasons I joined MSNBC. It was a mainstream platform that I didn't agree with everything about that channel, but it gave me a huge mainstream platform. And one of the reasons I did Surrounded was to reach a lot of young people who would never have heard of Zeteo and never have heard of my arguments. Forget Zeteo, forget promoting this media organization that I've built, but the arguments that I care deeply about: the Constitution, civil liberties, human rights, immigration, Gaza. Those arguments, it was worth making. I probably didn't get through to most people, certainly didn't get through to anyone in that room. But I do hope, to quote Oz, the people in the middle who are watching, I hope they saw it and thought, wow, the right-wing arguments really are bullshit. Mehdi really exposed it. That's my hope. Karen D says, what would you say or do differently? What would I say differently? I don't think I would have said much differently. I just watched it back. I think what I said, I stand by what I said. Maybe I wouldn't have been going all the way through if I'd known what I was going up against. I literally was stunned in some moments. And apologies if it's the connection isn't great. I am on vacation using vacation Wi-Fi to come to you all. I hope you could all hear me. But what would I do differently? Well, I wouldn't be as surprised if I'd known what I was going to. I genuinely was surprised by just how extreme they were. Would I have done the show had I known what I know now? That I don't know. And I think I definitely would have leaned towards maybe thinking twice about doing it, because I'm not someone who sits down with fascists or racists. I said this in the Jubilee show. I said, I don't debate fascists. People say to me, why don't you have X or Y on your show? And I say, election deniers or climate change. I don't have them on my show. You may notice I love a good argument. But when I wrote Win Every Argument, I said this in the book: good faith argument matters. Reality-based arguments matter. So there's no point just doing arguments for clickbait. And that's what this turned into in some ways. But again, in my own defense, I had no idea. If they'd told me you're going to be sit down with a fascist, I'd have said, no thanks, I'll pass. All right, let's keep going. Michael Connors says, I think this debate was a great opportunity to show everyone who these people are, who the Republican majority is. When you're in the midst of interviewing and debating people, how do you decide what to focus on, what to respond to, what to ignore? Another great question. These are great questions today, guys. Thanks. Yes, it definitely shows what the Republican Party has become and what it's becoming. I'm not saying the majority of Republican voters in this country are like the people in that room and surrounded. I'm not saying that. I am saying, though, a growing number of Republicans, especially young Republicans, do subscribe to an openly fascist white supremacist ideology. I do believe the Republican Party is at best a white supremacist adjacent party, and at worst now a hardcore white supremacist party at its core. And we need to be open about that and look at who's supporting Trump and who's radicalizing online. In terms of Michael's question about what to focus on, what to respond to, I think you have to think about what is your goal. And I go into these things with very specific goals. Less is more. You cannot do everything. You cannot respond to every point. You cannot debunk every argument. But I think what you want to do is expose the key fallacies or contradictions at the heart of their arguments. So when I'm debating the young woman who says you can't be an American and an immigrant, and she says, and then she reveals that her parents are immigrants, but they're Americans, but I'm not, even though I'm an American immigrant. There, immediately that becomes my be all and end all. I'm focused on this core contradiction in her argument where it falls apart. And I think what many people, not just on the right, but politicians across the board, activists across the board, what they try and do when they debate or interview is distract, deflect, take you somewhere you don't want to go. My strength and a skill I've worked on, and I hope those of you who read the book, Win Every Argument, my book, will focus on, is stay focused. Don't be distracted. Don't go chasing shiny objects. Focus on what you want to focus on. Don't let someone pull you somewhere else. Whataboutism, deflection, ad hominem attacks, putting you on the defensive. Keep coming back to what you want to talk about. In the first debate, in the first claim that I made about Trump being pro-crime, I cited the January 6 pardons. And I didn't really budge from that. Yes, we talked about Epstein. We talked about some of the other pardons. But at its core, each person who came and sat in front of me, I said, do you support pardoning people who beat police officers? They don't want to answer that question. So you just have to keep re-asking it. Anonymous person says, Mehdi, big fan. Thank you. Not related to your Jubilee debate. When will you debate Ben Shapiro? I have no idea if that will ever happen or whether he would ever agree to that. Nikki Saney asked, did you change anyone's mind? Not in that room, no, but I'm hoping people at home may have changed their mind. The last debate was actually quite an instructive one. The last claim, which the other guy, I think his name was Kai, brought forward was, he said we shouldn't have birthright citizenship. And we actually had that was the only part of the show which was really substantive, good faith debate, no insults, no racism or open racism. We actually had a proper debate for 10 minutes, and I'm hoping I convinced people as to why birthright citizenship is important and should stay. Let's keep going. So many questions. Ty Ebright asks a good question. Why won't you debate a fascist? So I tried to explain this on the show, but I'll explain it now. Fascists don't believe in debate. They don't believe in democracy. If you're a fascist, as we saw from Connor on Surrounded, you believe in using the democratic method of debate, discourse, free press, free media, elections to take power and then get rid of all of that. So why would I help you do that? Why would I be your willing accomplice? There is no merit to debating a fascist because A, at the core of fascism is violence, not speech, not debate. B, at the core of fascism is a lack of respect for human dignity and human equality, and I refuse to debate anyone who doesn't see me as an equal. Why would I do that? And C, as I say, it's a strategic goal of them to use this stuff. Connor was very open about it. I said, why are you here? You don't even believe in the Constitution or the First Amendment. He said, I'm here because this is how we get our ideas across. They are using mainstream platforms to launder their talking points, to gain fake respectability and mainstreaming of themselves, all in order to destroy it all. Right? One election, one time. That's what Connor said. We'll have one election to choose the autocrat, to choose the General Franco figure, and that's it. And then we're done. So no, I won't debate such people. There's no value to debating such people because they're not good faith debaters. Somebody anonymous says, I appreciate you doing the debate. Thank you. Ed asks, thanks for being a strong, unapologetic voice. Appreciate it, Ed. I'll just keep going. Let's sign some questions. Joseph Perez asks, now that you did Jubilee, would you do it again? And would you recommend anyone to do it? That's a great question. Would I do it again? I don't know. I definitely am less likely to have done it again, given what I know now, because I didn't think I was going in to debate white supremacists and fascists. I thought I was debating ordinary Trump supporters. And I know many of you say that's a distinction without a difference. Ordinary Trump supporters are fascists and racist. Not all of them. Many of them are. But I didn't know they would be this extreme and this kind of organized. A lot of these people were not members of the public. They were online influencers. And that's not what I expected for sure. Would I recommend anyone else to do it? I guess it depends who that person is and what the topic is. Right now, probably not. But, Sam Cedar, I don't think he'll mind me saying this, a very good friend of mine, he did a great job on Surrounded a few months ago. If you haven't watched it, that's also there. And he said, look, it's worth doing it because it is worth reaching a new audience that you wouldn't otherwise reach. And it's worth exposing these people's arguments, the bankruptcy of their arguments. So I don't know whether I'd recommend it to anyone. It depends who the person is and what the topic is and how they vet the audience next time or the 20 debaters. Would I do it again? Probably not. Pam Wesolowski says, how did you wash the racism and fascism off after the end of that? Yes, take a very long shower. As I said, I eat lots of ice cream. Ice cream is a solution for many things. How did you feel? How safe did you feel going into the interview? A little bit unsafe, which is why I took security with me and made sure there was security on set. Very unsafe at the end of the interview where we got the hell out of Dodge. People asked me, did you stand around to chat to people? No, I did not. I left and went to dinner. Let's keep going. Jeffrey Awirioboa, sorry for butchering your last name, says, I'm really well done on keeping your composure, which is hard for me. Sometimes I lose my composure quite quickly, so I was impressed with my own calmness on that day. I'm really curious to understand how you prepare for such a hostile engagement. Great question. So my preparation is to do lots of research. I have a great research team that helps me. I do my own research as well. But I try and prepare. I knew what my 4 claims were. It was about Trump's criminality, Trump's defying of the Constitution, the value of immigration, and ethnic cleansing in Gaza. And I prepped the hell out of all those 4 claims. My position is I want to know more about the argument. I want to know more about my opponent's argument than they do. I don't just want to know my argument. I need to know the other side of the argument. I need to know what they're going to say and when they're going to say it. And when they say it, I need to have my rebuttal ready. And so when baseball cap dude came and tried to have the economics discussion with me, what was interesting is he assumed I was quoting a paper from Giovanni Perry, which I wasn't. But that's where he messed up because I wasn't. It was a totally different study that I'd brought to the table. But that's what I try and avoid doing. Don't assume what your opponents are going to say. Know what they're going to say. Be bulletproof in your own arguments and in steel manning, not straw manning, steel manning your opponent's arguments. And in the end, when you do that, you can never be too prepared. And what's interesting is I turned up and I didn't need to steel man their arguments because their arguments were so weak, or in many cases, they just didn't engage, right? I came with an argument about how Trump is defying the Constitution. I brought a bunch of evidence, the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the 14th Amendment, the 22nd Amendment, all of these ones he's violating. I had all my receipts. First guy was like, we don't care about the Constitution. I was like, oh. Well, that's a very different debate to what I thought I was having. So sometimes you can prepare and then the other person's not even engaging. But preparation is key. Practice, practice, practice. And yeah, I watched a lot of Surrounded to try and understand how it's going to work, when they're going to come up, what the best way use of time is. I had the moments that I'd prepared for kind of quote unquote mic drop moments, which I knew I wanted to make, and I had to keep an eye on the clock to make sure I didn't run out of time. So yes, don't leave stuff to chance. Don't try and wing things. Don't always be spontaneous. Spontaneity has its role, but be prepared for every engagement. Can't say it enough. That was Jeffrey. Joshua Richard says, what was the most alarming thing about the debate? I mean, the most alarming thing about the debate is these people exist. Not just that they exist, they've always existed in the US. Let's not be naive. But that they're willing to say this stuff out loud now. Like one guy claims to have lost his job, the fascist guy. I'm not sure how true that is. People are saying online he actually lost his job earlier. He's pretending that he was a free speech martyr. But most of them are fine. They'll all be fine. Some of them are grabbing new followers on social media. I looked at a couple of their accounts. They're loving the reaction they've had from their friends. It is very worrying. It is very alarming that we live in a country where you can now go on TV and say in front of millions of people, not condemn the Nazi Holocaust. That you can tell an American brown citizen that they have to get out of the country. They'll be the first to go. That is alarming. And I don't know how many times I can say this. We are living in a fascist moment in American history. For the complacent folks on the left who say, well, it's actually about economics. It's actually about poverty. It's actually about trade. No, no, it's about very much about race and democracy. It's very much about a group of white supremacists and fascists who want to make America great again by making it white again and making it less democratic in the process. And we need to be very aware of that. Margaret Hayden says the debaters were primarily young people. Was it a choice not to vary the age range? You'd have to ask Jubilee. I assume they lean towards younger debaters because their audience is a younger audience. I actually don't know the answer to that question. It's a great question. But yes, they were younger people, which makes it even scarier. We often think of like racists in America being old white folks in Mississippi, not young folks in LA. Comment, not question from Kelly. I saw the guy telling you to leave and the one saying he's a fascist. I thought you did a great job. You're an amazing debater. Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate the feedback. Let's keep going. Yusuf Panchari. Oh, Yusuf, you're so sweet and naive, Yusuf. Yusuf asked, did the guy named Joseph apologize after the debate? What do you think, Yusuf? No, he did not apologize. In fact, he's doubling down on social media right now, loving his defending his bigotry and nonsense. These people, yeah. Let's keep going. Jen Cole says, how do you process after that? Here's a hug just in case you need one. Thank you, Jen. I mean, look, let's be real. Like, I don't know how to phrase this without, I don't want to sound like a victim, but I do want to say this. Like, I have a very big platform. I'm very privileged, right? I have a very big platform. I've had a great education. I have had a great career in some of the best media organizations in the world. I've interviewed some of the biggest names in the world. For me, it's not that big a deal to sit down with a bunch of people and argue for 2 hours versus someone else. Having said that, I'm a big boy and I've got a thick skin and I can deal with these people. Having said that, as a generic brown American, it is outrageous that anyone should have to listen to rhetoric like that. It is outrageous that in America in 2025, anyone would dare say this stuff out loud and get away with it. I think that is a problem. And I think we need to think long and hard about minority community. Sometimes we say stuff like, oh, the best way to get over bigotry is everyone just needs to meet each other. If these Republican racists had a Muslim neighbor or a black neighbor, they would think differently. And I think that may be true, but you're putting a lot of burden on minority communities. It should not be the burden of minority communities to end other people's bigotry. And I think that's something we should all keep in mind, especially our white liberal allies. Thank you, Jen. Max Boyer says, do you think there would be any utility in the left having a similar engagement bait type thing like this? It seems to influence the national conversation online. At least. Good question, Max. I'm going to have a think about that one. Josephine Nguyen says, after going through this experience, do you believe that formats such as Surrounded add to the conversation in a positive way, or do you believe that they actually platform and therefore embolden and legitimize people from the extreme right wing, allowing them to find and connect with each other more easily and disseminate their ideas? Fantastic question, Josephine. Gets to the heart of some of the criticisms I've had, legitimate criticisms. And I completely hear this. And I'm torn. I've been thinking about nothing else for the last 72 hours. Was it the right thing to do? Will this be a positive or negative thing in the long run? I don't think there's a right answer right now, but let me engage with your question in as good faith as possible. Do I believe that they add to a positive way? Clearly, I believe that when I agreed, right? I didn't agree blindly. I thought about it. I thought, look, there's pros and cons to doing this. I did my research. I talked to people like Sam. I talked to friends and colleagues, family, and I made a decision to do it, knowing the risks, which Josephine outlines. that it could embolden and legitimize people, and it could put me in an unsafe position. Having said that, again, let's just be devil's advocate since you've put the critical question. Let me put the other side. The other side of the argument says that yes, well, first of all, I'm not platforming them. I have some deniability. I mean, it's not my show. Zeteo did not organize. I want to be clear. Some people left comments on our post saying, why did Zeteo do this? Zeteo did not make this show. Zeteo did not platform these people. Zeteo did not pick these people. Zeteo is not behind this show at all. Our greatest sin was that we shared some clips from it on the Zeteo accounts, as is our want. But so we didn't platform them. But did I embolden or legitimize them? You could make that argument that by being there, sitting across from me, a mainstream journalist, me giving them the time of day, they were legitimate. And I've seen this online. You remember the blonde white woman who came to talk about Gaza? She's been on a few episodes. She's basically a white Christian nationalist. She tweeted out like, oh, watch the baseball cap guy, Joseph. Watch him with this 46-year-old journalist and he destroys him. So they do use this stuff to try and legitimize their own argument. Say, look at us. We went toe to toe with X or Y on Surrounded, and we won. Obviously, they didn't win, but that's how they sell it on their side via their algorithm to their echo chamber. So I get that. That's 100% a problem. I would push back against the idea that this helps them connect with each other and disseminate their ideas. Sorry, they're already disseminating their ideas. The internet, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, all of these folks have already helped these people legitimize and push their ideas. Social media and the internet have emboldened all these people. That's what's so scary about. Somebody asked me the other day, is this like the Ku Klux Klan? In some ways, they're obviously not as bad as the KKK. The KKK were lynching people and burning crosses on lawns. In some ways, they are worse than the KKK in the sense that the KKK was never normalized this online. They couldn't, they had to meet in secret and send paper messages to each other. Now, these guys are openly online sharing this stuff on Elon Musk's hell side and being amplified by the algorithm in the case of Zuckerberg's Facebook. We've seen lots of evidence of that. So that is a problem. But to go back to the question, yes, it is a real risk that by doing these shows, you are legitimizing and emboldening these people. The counter to that argument is, number one, they're being legitimized and emboldened anyways, online, all over Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, etc. Number two, it's good to expose these people and have someone like me actually tear them apart, which I think I did. And three, even if I don't do it, and this is the worst argument of all, I'm embarrassed to even say it, but I'm going to say it. If I don't do it, someone else is going to do it. And I know people say that's not an argument for doing bad things. Completely agree. But Surrounded's not going away. They've got 10 million audience. They are doing these shows. Someone I know is about to do another Surrounded. They've already taped it. I just discovered it this week, coming out in August. You'll see her show very soon. So it's already happening. So why not send your best? I'm kidding. Very modestly, he says. No, why not have someone like me who knows how to debate go and actually debunk some of these people? That's the counter. But I'm saying I'm on the fence. I hear you, Joseph, and I hear both sides. There is the one side that says it's good to debate, good to expose, good to humiliate these people, good to show America what's out there, what the threat is, and the platform's already there, whether we like it or not. The counter is, but in doing so, you are emboldening and maybe legitimizing some of these folks and engaging in polarizing clickbait. I totally get both arguments. And Nadia asked something similar. Nadia Martini says, is it worth debating such people with extreme views? Are you just giving them airtime? Personally, I've come to the conclusion that we will never change their beliefs. Nadia, I won't get into the whole, is it worth engaging? I just dealt with that. But and we're running out of time, but I do want to deal with the point about never changing their minds. I don't debate people to change their minds. I say this in my book very clearly. I just debated Michael Gove last week in London. That video will be dropping any day now on Trump. I don't debate people to change the other person's mind. I debate people to change the watching audience's mind. It's not about me versus X or Y. It's about me versus X and Y in front of Z, in front of Z, in front of ABC. It's the watching audience that I'm interested in. I'm not interested in the other person. I'm not stupid. I'm not going to change Michael Gove's mind. I'm not going to change this fascist mind in the 5 minutes I have in sitting in front of me. But I might be able to change the people who are on the fence, people watching in the middle, people who are open-minded and willing to actually switch over from right to left, or even the low information voters in America who don't even follow politics, don't even follow these arguments, don't know what a fascist is, don't know what great replacement theory is, don't realize how bad Trump is, but they watch Surrounded, they watch Jubilee media because they're a kid or a teenager or their child tells them to. And this is the first time they're exposed to these arguments. So that's my goal. Maybe a utopian and naive goal, but that's my goal. Anne Harris says, I'm a retired teacher from the UK. How much do you think the US education system is to blame? A lot. I think the US education system is broken. I certainly think when it comes to civics, we've failed greatly in teaching the value of constitutional rights, democracy, equality, all of this stuff. And it's only going to get worse with the Trump administration's assault, not just on the Department of Education and curricula in general, but also specifically on diversity and equity initiatives, right? DEI is now a dirty word. Any progress that the American education system made in terms of teaching the sins of slavery and some of the more accurate retelling of Americans' historical past, that's all gone now. Now we're going to get the propaganda version of American history. Now we're going to get any discussion of racism being taboo in our schools and campuses. So I think it's only going to get worse, and these fascists are only going to be more emboldened, sadly, certainly for the next 3 years. That's unfortunate reality. Russell Cater said, any thoughts on Jubilee, the format, whether it's conducive to changing minds? Again, I hope so. I hope we can change the audience's mind. The format is on it in and of itself was fun, right? Just the format. That's what appealed to me. The idea of sitting in the middle of as someone who debates, loves to argue, I live for this stuff. I'm so sorry. I'm being honest. Sitting in a circle with 20 people, I like those odds. I do. Somebody joked 20 to 1, it wasn't fair on Mehdi. They should have made it 40 to 1, he says modestly. Okay, we're almost out of time. I'm being texted to wrap this up. Let us wrap up soon. Let's take a couple more quickly. Sorry, there's so many questions in the chat. I've not got to all of them. I hope I've dealt with some of the similar questions. Let's scroll down because I've been going one by one. The laughter of fascism was horror. Yes, it was. Fred Meyer says, did you come up with a sense of how some of these people might be turned around to the reality that their beliefs are dangerous to the rest of us? Fred, I actually think it's worse than that. I think they know that their beliefs are dangerous to us. I think Connor knows that. Joseph knows that. That's why there's a threatening. He didn't just say, I think that you should be deported. He said, get the hell out. And then when he walked off, he said, you'll be the first to go. So it's the threatening. A very well-known journalist, I won't take his name, texted me yesterday saying, I watched that Jubilee thing and all that I could think of, it was a violent exchange. The violence being the threatening language. And I think they know that. And that's why fascism is so dangerous, because they're not actually interested in debate. Ultimately, when they take power, if they take power, God forbid, they want to kill their opponents. And we're seeing some of that now. That's what ICE is doing. ICE is a fascist militia, very much so. Let's take a couple more. Kurt says, what are the rules, restrictions that Jubilee puts on the participants? I mean, not to be ad hominem, but I hope. Try and engage with the arguments, although many didn't. Let's see. Let's keep going. Vasim Gova says, do you think the time will come where you may have to move your business, Zeteo, out of the US? I hope not. But that's the path of travel we're going on right now. If democracy ends, then free media cannot exist. This is why I tell all my journalist friends, you are not neutral in this debate about fascism and Trump. You are not, disinterested bystanders standing on a hill watching. If democracy ends in America, the free press ends in America. We have skin in the game, journalists, and we need to be very clear that for our own survival, as journalists, as media institutions, we need democracy to survive. And right now, democracy is under assault like never before in our lifetimes. So right now, let's keep going. Any other a lot of comments, lots of support. Thank you very much. Vasim also asked, why didn't you bring up Zionism? Well, wasn't really relevant, but I think I made my points about Israel quite strongly in the debate on Gaza. You can watch my interaction with the Iranian American, where I really did kind of put him on the spot for his ghastly views, which even the white supremacists in the room were not supporting it. Mehdi asked about how to composure. I mentioned it earlier. I don't know, actually, to be honest, how I kept my composure. I think it was because I had a producer. I think I had a producer of mine who was just there for moral support, but I could see him in the distance offset, and I think he had his head in his hands. And I thought I had my own virtual head in my hands, thinking, what is going on here? I think it was more just I was shocked. I think I stayed calm just because I was shocked. It takes a lot to make me speechless, but some of these people made me speechless. Janet Resnick-Wandel says, how can the left make use of this exposure? I do think this is one of the good things about this is we can get our points across. I was able to make a pro-immigration case that millions of people have now seen, and I hope, even by osmosis, they somehow accept that. We'll keep going. We're almost out of time. Let's quickly wrap up. Let's see. Gabriel Montoya asked, do you think this set of 20 fascists dispels the notion that hatred and racism will die out with the older generation? Great last question to end on. No. And that is the most important thing I hope people hear and everywhere take away from this conversation. This is not some old, we are not on some linear arc of progress. Martin Luther King said the moral arc of the universe bends towards justice. He's right. But we have to bend it. It doesn't bend on its own. We have to bend it towards justice. We have to drag it towards justice. That is what I'm trying to do with Zeteo, what I'm trying to do with these debates, sometimes good, sometimes bad. It's what drives me, what helps me get out of bed in the morning. I hope it's what drives all of you. And I appreciate all of your support for Zeteo. I wish I could have taken more questions, but this is one of our biggest town halls ever. I hope I've answered a lot of the questions and criticisms. Appreciate you taking time out on a Thursday. Please make sure your friends and families are subscribed to Zeteo. If you don't like Jubilee Media, if you don't like Fox, if you don't like right-wing media, support Zeteo. We don't do clickbait. We have substantive journalism. Those of you know, we have deep dive investigations, big documentaries, big pieces, big essays, big name contributors. Please do support us. Become a subscriber. Get your friends and families to become paid subscribers. Consider becoming founding members. Support what we're doing because journalism is very much under threat right now. But I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much.